Hello and welcome. In this tutorial, I'll be demonstrating how to manage permissions with the Secure Messaging Gateway monitoring component and run through multi-tenant integration. The elements we'll be looking at are user and group management, roles and groups, monitoring system permissions, and what you need to know about managing the monitoring system in a multi-tenant environment. Most of what we'll be looking at in this tutorial will be accomplished in the main administration console, so we'll start by logging into our system as our admin user. Users that can access the monitoring system are defined in the Manage Users page. To provide access, two key settings are required. The first is for a role to exist that has permissions to use the monitoring system. A few system roles are pre-populated for you already. Let's look at the Monitoring Manager system role. Under the Assigned User Interfaces, this role has been assigned to have monitoring interface access. The members of this role include admin and monitor admin. This allows these users to access the monitoring component. While we're here, you'll find this section within the role for monitoring usage. These rights provide varying degrees of access to the monitoring system to allow for users to have a range of different access and control capabilities within the monitoring interface. Each item has tooltip information available that explains what rights a user is entitled to. The three system roles provided are for typical use cases. To refine the roles further, you can use custom roles to create your own set of rights for specific sets of users. The one checkbox that is not enabled here is the Expose as Group option. This option presents the role as a group within the monitoring interface itself and is typically managed within the custom roles. If we look at the custom roles, we see that we have a role labeled All Gadgets. This role was created within the monitoring interface itself, and it is tagged with the option to expose it as a group. With this option enabled, monitoring managers are able to manipulate the users of this role and delete the role from within the monitoring interface itself. Let's take a look at that in action now. If I log into the monitoring UI, I can add a group. Let's call this Scanning Info. So this group might be used just to provide gadgets for the purpose of graphing scanner activity. So I'll assign my users and then just the scanning activity gadgets and save my changes. So taking note of the group name, Scanning Info, if I now log back out and back in as admin and into our system administration console, if I look at the custom roles, we'll see the role here generated during the group creation process. Again, it's been tagged with the Expose as Monitoring Group, and it has the role members that I assigned. This of course allows both monitoring managers and system administrators to manage these roles from either user interface. In general, these custom roles would not have any other settings enabled, though the options are there for you to decide how to lay out your own system. So that's all you really need to know for a typical system. Now let's take a look at how to integrate this with multi-tenant systems. A multi-tenant system is defined as one that has more than just the root organization. The Manage Organizations page is used to create tenants, so let's open that up. We'll start off by creating a new tenant, and let's call this Remote Office. In a tenant or organizational unit, we can define which features the tenant can use. For a tenant to be able to use monitoring, we need to expand the user interface options and give it access to the allowable interfaces. in which monitoring needs to include the monitoring interface option. In addition to the interface, we also need to give it access to gadget types. As more gadgets are added to SMG, this will become more important, with some of them exposing system level information that might not be something that should be exposed outside of the root OU. A quick note on the login audit gadget. This gadget is tenant aware, so if it's used by a tenant, they'll only see login information for users attempting to log into their tenant. Now I'm going to give this tenant access to the admin UI monitoring interface and just the graph-based gadgets to demonstrate how this works. Additionally, you should pass down the system roles related to monitoring, and we'll also give them access to other typical roles that they need. And finally, I'll provide rights to all of the scanning components. We'll now save this and refresh my organization list. And in my remote office tenant, I'm going to add a user. We'll give them a login name of remote user and assign them to all the roles. Now, setting up an OU doesn't pre-configure anything like you get at the root OU, so there's a few other things we need to do. We need to go into Manage System Roles for this tenant, and just for the purpose of this demonstration, we're going to go into the Monitoring Manager and assign it the monitoring interface and all of the monitoring functionality. We also need to make sure that a statistics database is assigned to this OU. You'll find this setting in the Stats Module Manager. Open up the Stats module and make sure your OU is assigned to the serviced OU set. Now, if you want to use separate databases for different tenants, possibly to ensure separation of data between the different tenants, you'd create a new stats module and assign it to a different database. So let's quickly look at how to do this. First, we need to configure the physical database connection. This is found in the Database Connections page under System Management. Add your new database. Giving it a recognizable name for its purpose. And then enter the details of the database server. Make sure the database is defined for stats usage. Now, back in the Stats Module Manager, we add a new statistics engine. Open that up, select the database we just configured, and assign our tenant OU to this engine. Now all the data for the selected OUs will be sent to this engine. Be careful when using this functionality. If you change databases, data will start fresh in the new database. Transferring old data to the new database would need to be done as a separate manual task if it was required. On the system, I only have one statistics database, so I'll make sure that my OU is assigned to the statistics engine I started with. Now, if I log back in as the remote user that I created earlier, and open up the Rights Manager, when I add a group, you'll see that the only gadgets available are the ones that are assigned to this OU, or tenant. As with other tenant-based rights in SMG, these cascade through each tenant level, with each tenant only being allowed to pass on the rights that it has been given permission to use. That's it for this tutorial. I hope it's been of assistance. Thanks for watching, and bye for now.